Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 26.3.1 released to the public a few days ago, and iOS 26.4 Beta 3 released to developers and public beta testers a couple days ago. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 26.4 Beta 3 is out what's new video. We'll talk about the latest Apple news, we'll also talk about some features, and we'll talk about the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll on the post page, where at the time of this video there's over 14,000 votes, and 171 comments. I've gone over all the comments to determine what the update is like for most of us, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now this week was a big Apple launch week, with quite a few new refreshed products, many different things launching, and they all release on March 11th. I'll be checking out some of them, but let me know which Apple devices you're most interested in, whether it's the MacBook Neo, maybe the iPhone 17e or something else. Strangely though, there was no base iPad update as many expected, so we haven't seen that yet. No Apple TV or HomePod updates just yet as well, but that could be waiting for the new Siri update. Apple this week announced a collaboration with the Sydney Opera House, you'll see here, to celebrate Australian creativity. If we scroll down, it says Apple and the Sydney Opera House today announced a year-long collaboration to champion the next generation of creativity through initiatives that support Australian art, design, and culture, including programming for young people and activity with the Opera House Centre for Creativity. So that's going to start soon, and again is for a year. I'll link this in the description if you want to check it out yourself. Now, while the Studio, or the Mac Studio, did not get an update with the M5 chip yet, Apple did change the availability options on the website. If we go to Apple's store here, so within the Mac store, if we slide over and go to Mac Studio, and maybe we go to configure one of these. Again, there's no M5 option, but if we scroll down, we have M3 Ultra, and then maybe we configure it with 32 cores. You'll see under the RAM options, there's no longer an option for 512 gigabytes. Most people, of course, don't need this, but it was nice to have for maybe running giant AI models and other things, but it's no longer available, at least at this point. Maybe we'll see it in the future, but this is most likely due to the RAM shortage around the world. So at this point, they've changed it. Maybe nobody really ordered it, but we'll have to wait and see if they bring it back, maybe with the M5 Ultra. Also, with all of the new products launched this week, Apple discontinued 15 products after they announced all of the new ones this week. For example, the Pro Display XDR is no longer available, replaced by the Studio Display XDR, and the iPhone 16e and everything else that was replaced. So all the M4 variants were replaced by M5, with the exception, of course, of the Mac Studio, Mac Mini, and iMac. So all of the other things have been discontinued. You'll see them discounted on different websites, but Apple has stopped selling them. Now, the latest and probably the most exciting product from Apple is the low-priced MacBook Neo. It comes in 4 different colors, and there's 4 wallpapers to go along with it. Mac Rumors has actually listed all 4 wallpapers, so I'll link it in the description if you want to download them for yourself. But if you squint at this wallpaper, it says Mac. So they sort of spell it out like they have on all of them, and you can see all the different variants available here: blush, citrus, indigo, and silver, that will be available once it launches to the public. But again, you can try them out on your Mac here as well, or maybe your iPad. Now, Apple Music is something I've been using for a while, and it looks like they're now introducing AI-made song tags in Apple Music. So this would be something that sort of tags the song, lets it know or declare that it's actually AI generated, and lets everyone know. So that's something we should see in the near future. We've seen different approaches to this where they scan for it, but this would be required to actually tag the music as AI generated. So hopefully we see more of that with images and everything else, letting us know specifically that it was made by AI, or at least modified by AI. Now, as far as a weekly iOS tip, I wanted to share one thing. If you're using the camera, maybe you're using it for video a lot like I do, one thing I would highly recommend is changing one of your settings. Specifically, if we go into our settings, scroll down to camera here. So we'll go to where we have camera. Within camera, if maybe we want to record video, scroll down even further and you'll see that it says lock white balance. This is something I would highly recommend. So what that means is that it will calculate white balance based on the current scene and then lock it to that so it doesn't change while you're recording. This will typically result in maybe shifting of the colors of the background if you don't lock it. So once we tap record, if maybe you show a screen, it will stay what it looks like in the background. Maybe it will brighten or dim if you have auto exposure on, but it will not change the colors. Sometimes you'll see it yellow or just change a little bit. By locking it, it gets rid of that. So I would highly recommend changing that setting. You don't have to do it, but that's something I typically do every time I get a new phone. When it comes to features within Apple Music, we have the new playlist option with iOS 26.4, where we have the playlist playground in beta. Many people have been asking me, when will this be available in your country and different places around the world? It seems like it's mostly in the United States so far, but hopefully this is rolled out around the world by the time it releases. I don't see a reason why it couldn't, but again, it's only in beta in the United States, it seems, at this point. So Apple hasn't specifically specified when, but it is a nice feature to have, where you can just say, give me high energy songs for a run, and then it starts generating them. It can take a little bit. It says searching for songs, then it will generate them on the display. So you'll see it generates it, it gives you haptic feedback to let you know it's done, and now it selects them. You can rearrange them, change them however you'd like, and then you've got a nice playlist based off what you've typed or just selected that way. So again, that's one of the features coming with 26.4. We should have some new emoji and a few changes here and there, but nothing major. Apple continues to refine everything here. So at this point, iOS 27 is when we expect at least some feature changes. That could be Apple Intelligence, that could be Siri 2.0. We just don't have any specific idea, but we do expect stability as it's looking better and better with the current versions releasing to the public and the betas. When it comes to releases this week, we got quite a few releases. iOS 26.3.1, iOS 18.7.6, and that actually addresses a mobile network issue for iPhone XS models and iPhone XR when establishing a connection to emergency services in Australia. So that specifically updates that with iOS 18. However, that's not available on any other devices. So unfortunately, there's no way to install that on different devices. If you have a XS or XR, you can install it. Otherwise, you have to install iOS 26 to get the latest updates. And speaking of iOS 26.4 Beta 4 or RC, we could see that as soon as Monday or Tuesday. Apple seems to be releasing them weekly, so we could see it as soon as Monday. Now, we could see a Beta 4. If we see Beta 4, I would expect the RC the following week with a public release around the 23rd. If we don't see Beta 4 and instead see the RC or release candidate, we could see that on the 9th with a public release around the 16th. Apple hasn't specified when they expect to launch this, but at this point, we'll have to wait and see what they do next week, and then we'll know when they'll release it. As far as iOS 26.5, hopefully we'll see the new Siri 2.0 updates there with Gemini integration, but again, Apple has not said anything other than it will be shown this year. So at this point, it could be part of iOS 27, and we expect the first beta of that to be shown in June. Usually around June 8th at WWDC 2026, they'll show off Beta 1, we'll be able to install it, and then typically it'll release later in the year, around September, around the iPhone 18 launch. So not a ton of features to look forward to just yet. Everything's sort of been locked down with iOS 27, and maybe that's just because it's really about stability and will be more like a snow leopard year this year. When it comes to AirPods Pro 3, I really haven't noticed any difference this week using them regularly. However, those that have updated to iOS 26.3.1 say that the issue with the AirPods mic not working properly when you're on a call seems to be fixed. So if you were having that issue on AirPods or any AirPods, it seems like it's resolved with 26.3.1. When it comes to iOS 18.7.6 and the overall experience, so far it seems very few people are using it. Those staying on iOS 18 are not on an iPhone XR, XS, or XS Max, and because of that, they're on older versions that are less secure, but they're still not able to try the latest version. So if you're on a XR, XS, or XS Max, I'd love to hear from you in the comments how the experience is going with the latest update, which is more for security and support updates. So let me know how that's going. Now, when it comes to iOS 26.3.1, this has got to be one of the most stable public releases in a while. It's fixed quite a few issues, as many people have pointed out. Things such as the control center lag have been fixed, the app library lag has been fixed. Going in here, scrolling, everything seems to be smooth. UI stutters seem to be gone for most people, and touch responsiveness in general seems to be improved. Many people report that the keyboard is working properly. So in Notes, this is a new note on iOS 26.3.1. It looks like it's working fine, even on older devices, as I'm running it here on the iPhone 11 as well. So if we go into Settings, then we go to General and Software Update, give it a second here, you'll see it's on 26.3.1. Again, if we go into Notes, so within Notes, this is a new note on iOS 26.3.1. It looks like it's working fine, haptic response is good, and it looks like they may have finally fixed the keyboard issues this time around. Many people are reporting that apps are crashing less, no issues there, and also RAM management has improved. In fact, many people are just saying it's no longer an issue. So apps are staying open longer in the background. We'll go into music, go back into podcasts. They're just staying loaded like they should. Many are reporting that Apple CarPlay is finally fixed with iOS 26.3.1, where it just no longer disconnects on its own or crashes. It seems like it's resolved for most. However, there are still a few people using CarPlay that have issues with audio dropouts on maps or crashes that require a reboot to fix it. So that seems to be more rare, but there are a few people still experiencing issues with it. There's also some lag that still exists. So for example, if we go in and play some music, swipe up, it goes to the dynamic island. And then if we scroll, sometimes it's laggy. So if we go in here, swipe up, go back and forth, some people are seeing extreme lag. I'm not seeing it here, but some people do experience that from time to time. So definitely an issue. You can swipe it out there. Everything seems to be smooth, at least on the latest devices. Also, some are saying that charging seems to be throttling for some. So if you're plugging it in, sometimes it throttles. However, we don't know if they're using a case. We don't know if background processes are going on, but I haven't seen that myself, at least on my devices. Also, a few people are saying that their device becomes unresponsive. Again, I haven't seen this on the latest phones, but so far it seems to be great, even on older devices like I showed you with the iPhone 11. So going in, we'll just open the camera quickly. It opens right up. Maybe we'll go to music, swipe home. Now it's not going to be super fast as it's 60 Hz, but it's definitely nice and smooth for iPhone 11. When it comes to iOS 26.4 Beta 3 version 2 or Beta 3 re-release, Apple's actually calling it version 2 this time around. I've been using it full-time on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. The good news is CarPlay has not disconnected on me. It did prior to this update. Now it seems to be resolved. So that's great. RAM management is still much better for most. So if we go into YouTube, now sometimes this will reload this page, but typically in other apps such as music or podcasts that I have open, you'll see it reloaded there. But I don't use podcasts all the time. So it really depends on the app you're in, but it seems like it's doing much better than it was before. The UI is fluid and fast, no real hiccups whatsoever. Even if I unlock the phone, sometimes it seems like they fixed it here. Swipe, there is a little bit of frame rate drop there every time you unlock. And some people say to disable raise to wake or pick it up to wake. And I really haven't seen that issue change it, but for me, I like that feature, so I'm going to keep it on. But you'll see it's smooth and fast now. Before it was repeatable every single time. Some still have the age verification glitch in the UK, however, that's supposedly a bug, and so far, there's not really many other issues that people have listed. So far, this is a great update. When it comes to overall performance, I showed that a little bit. 26.3.1 is smooth and fluid on older devices, so the first time it's fluid, even on iPhone 11, iPhone 12, any of those, it seems like it's much better. Some people have said that they haven't experienced this speed in a while. Now, it's not perfect. It's an older phone. It's going to have a little bit of lag from time to time, but it feels much faster than it did with iOS 26 early versions. When it comes to 26.4 Beta 3, like I said, I've been using it full-time on the iPhone and the iPad as well. I've had zero hiccups, zero lag other than what I just showed you. It seems fluid and fast, and really no complaints so far. It feels like it's finally close to being finished. When it comes to heat and thermals, let's go ahead and compare this with what we had when this released to the public. So we'll run benchmarks here, see what we've got, see if it improves, and we'll run it on the iPhone Air as well. So on the iPhone 17 Pro Max running iOS 26.4 Beta 3 version 2, you'll see here now that it's refreshed, we're right around 35 degrees Celsius, maybe up to 36 degrees Celsius there in the hottest spot. On the iPhone Air, we're typically around 40 degrees Celsius. This is on iOS 26.3.1, and we're right about 40 to 40.5 degrees Celsius. Benchmarks completed, and you'll see on the iPhone Air on the left, 3,718 for single-core, 9,473 for multi-core. That's pretty good overall for iOS 26.3.1, higher than what we typically see on the iPhone Air. And on the iPhone 17 Pro Max with 26.4, you'll see 3,791 for single-core, 3,780 for multi-core. I've run this multiple times. It seems like it's getting a little bit better over time, so definitely improving, and usually we'll get around 10,000 once it's released to the public. When it comes to battery life, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Thanks to a viewer for sending this in. Thanks to Abhishek for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 16e running iOS 26.3.1 with 99% battery health and set to an 85% charge limit. He had 8 hours and 2 minutes of screen on time, 41 minutes of screen off time, and used 81% of the battery. I'd say 8 hours of screen on time is pretty phenomenal for a 16e, so this is looking good overall. When it comes to iOS 26.4 Beta 3 and Beta 3 version 2, if we go back, take a look at battery here. Battery health, I'm at 100% capacity with 33 cycles, and if we take a look at my overall usage, it's going to vary a little bit. Yesterday, I had 4 hours and 42 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 19 minutes of screen idle time, and I used 80% of the battery. It seems like it's gotten a lot better, and you'll see even today, 1 hour and 55 minutes of screen active time with only 22% usage. It looks like it's increasing quite a lot as things stopped processing in the background. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.3.1 or iOS 26.4 betas, well, if you're on iOS 26.3, I would definitely install the update, as most people are saying it's pretty good as far as an update goes. If you're wondering about iOS 26.4 betas, if you're already on the beta, update to the latest, provide feedback, but if you're not on the beta, I'd probably stay to 26.3.1 at this point. We'll get closer to the final release, and then typically it's okay to update. Now, as far as the overall experience, let's go ahead and take a look at some of your comments and see what you had to say. Flapsfull5418 says 16 Pro on iOS 26.3.1. The majority of stutters are gone, phone feels much smoother, keyboard is better too, but still some occasional stutter and keyboard lag is present. I hope Apple does not stop with the optimization and continues to improve iOS. This is the first update since the 26.0 release that I can say is pretty good. David Park 6845 said, just a little bit warm on install of iOS 26.4 Public Beta 2 on my iPhone 17 Pro Max. Have had other iOS installs get even warmer, but they all seem to cool down pretty fast. So far, no bugs and runs smooth, and the battery is good. ALC15 says, I am on iOS 26.3.1 on iPhone 14 with phenomenal battery life, often getting 7 to 9 hours for battery life with moderate usage. iOS still has some improvements, but overall I'd give it a B+. Lorenzo Toma 3067 says, 26.3.1, the lag persists as soon as you swipe left and right on the home screen after sending music to the dynamic island. If you wait at least 3 seconds after the dynamic island animation finishes and try to scroll to the home screen, there is no lag. But if you scroll while the animation is in progress, there is stutter and lag. At this point, I don't think they're even aware of it since they haven't fixed it. iPhone 17 Pro. Jim Paget or Paget says, iOS 26.3.1 on iPhone SE2, SE3, and iPad mini 5th gen. Seems to have fixed the following 3 bugs that I was having on 26.3. Less touch sensitivity issues than iOS 26.3 so far. 26.3 used to have app crashes a lot, but not had that so far on 26.3.1. One other annoying bug I was getting on 26.3, that when using AirPods, other people could not hear the mic on calls. That seems to have been fixed since 26.3.1. I did not need to update the AirPods to fix it, but the iOS update on iPhone seemed to fix it. Stefan Valkov 2369 said, most of the issues and glitches are gone for me with 26.3.1 on my iPhone 13 Pro Max. Also, the battery life is nice for now. And speaking of battery life once more, exactly 50% of comments say that battery is better in iOS 26.3.1, 21% say that battery is the same as 26.3, and only 29% say battery is worse, where some were coming from iOS 18 as well, so they're seeing worse battery than that. With iOS 26.4 Beta 3, so far there's not enough comments that say it's worse, as 100% of comments say that iOS 26.4 Beta 3 or Public Beta 2 is better. So it looks like this is so far a pretty good update with better battery life. When it comes to storage, let's go ahead and take a look. We'll go to General and then iPhone Storage. If we scroll to the bottom, on the left is 26.3.1, 26.4 Beta 3 version 2 on the right, and iOS is taking up 21.96 gigabytes, that's on 26.4, and 20.4 gigabytes on 26.3.1. It seems like it's just a little bit larger as far as iOS, but again, this isn't a public release, and then Apple Intelligence is slightly larger as well. When it comes to system data, you'll see only 190 megabytes on the public release, and then 12.45 gigabytes on the beta. Both pretty good, much less than what they've been in the past, where some people seeing over 100 gigabytes, so it looks like they've fixed that issue as well if you were having it. When it comes to iOS 26.3.1, this is the Refinement update. I would give it a B or maybe even a B+, where the majority of users, and especially those on older devices such as the iPhone 12, 13, or 14, say that this is the smoothest iOS 26 has felt in a long time. UI lag in the control center and the app library have been ironed out. Bugs have been resolved, and many are seeing better battery. However, there are some with just a few issues with things such as charging and some small bugs here and there, but overall, it's much better at this point. iOS 26.4, well, that's surprisingly stable at this point. I would give it an A as far as a grade so far, and for a beta, the feedback so far has been incredibly positive. Memory management is excellent, with apps loading fast and actually staying loaded in the background. So far, battery is great, and despite a couple small glitches, such as the UK age verification bug, iOS 26.4 is really shaping up to be more stable than the current public release. I think Apple's internal changes and focus on stability are actually starting to show. So that's everything with iOS 26.3.1 and iOS 26.4 Beta 3 version 2 or Public Beta 2. Hopefully it continues to get much better. It looks like Apple is sort of really rapidly working on this version, so hopefully we see an RC next. Let me know if you've found any additional features or how it's working for you in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.